And one word I hear a lot in business these days is paradigms. Paradigms of effectiveness. Now, I can't understand a complex concept like that unless I have a simple story. So I want you to really work with your imaginations. Really imagine that you're in this situation. You're at Heathrow International Airport and you've just got off your morning flight and they didn't serve any breakfast, so you're very hungry. And you go into the airport, you're changing flights, and it's very crowded and very noisy. Now, has anybody here ever had shortbread cookies? I see there's some other fans as well. So you decide you're in England. What better place to get some shortbread cookies? So you go to the kiosk and you buy a package of Walker's shortbread cookies. You put it in your bag and you venture back out into the airport. And you can find only one seat that's free. And so you sit down, and after a minute, you decide it's time. So you reach down into your bag and you pull out your package of cookies. Now, what is really unnerving about this situation is the man next to you is literally staring at your cookies. I mean, his eyes are just riveted to that package. And as you open the package and take the first cookie, his eyes follow your hand to your mouth. And then, without saying a word, he just reaches over and grabs the next cookie. I don't believe this. You take another cookie. He just reaches over and grabs the next. What are you thinking? What would you say to someone back home Monday morning? How would you describe this man? What would you say? He was a jerk. What else? He was hungry. Yeah, maybe they didn't serve breakfast on his flight. What else? He was bold. Maybe he was an American. What else would you say about him? What was that? He could have asked, yeah. His manners, seriously. I mean, who taught him his manners, honestly? What was his mother like? What else would you say? He likes shortbread. He has a fine appreciation for shortbread, too. Sure. What else? I hope he recovers. We hope he gets better. So now this goes back and forth. You take a cookie, he reaches over and grabs the next. You take one, he grabs the next. I mean, you can have some fun with audiences. You can say, what would you do? And the best answer I've ever heard is, I'd lick all the cookies. So this goes back and forth until there's only one cookie left. He reaches over and he grabs the last cookie. He breaks it in half. He gives you half. He eats half himself, and then he stands up and walks off. Obviously, his flight has been called. And this has been so upsetting for you, so disconcerting. I mean, not a word was said in this whole exchange, that your stomach is just churning. So you decide to go back to the kiosk and get some Alka-Seltzer, some Bromo-Seltzer, and of course, to buy another package of cookies. So you go back to the kiosk, you get your new purchases, and as you go to put them in your bag, you open your bag. What do you see in your bag? Your package of cookies. You see, you reach down into his bag and we're eating his package of cookies. Now what would you say about that man? What would you say about him? Very tolerant. What else? He's a Canadian. What else would you say? His mom taught him good manners. Yeah. Aren't you glad he didn't have a gun? You see, a paradigm is the way we see the situation. And we filter everything through our paradigm. We had a paradigm shift at the kiosk there. We see the situation in a new way. All our behaviors change. Let's reinvest ourselves emotionally in that old paradigm that he was eating our cookies. Get back there emotionally. Deeply invest yourself. In other words, when we opened our bag of cookies had actually sunk to the bottom and we don't see it. So we're actually carrying now 2 bags of shortbread cookies in our carry-on luggage there. So we don't know, in fact, that we were eating his cookies. We think he was eating ours back there. And we get on the plane. And can you believe who they sit us beside? This joker. And they're about to serve lunch. What's my attitude towards him? You come near my lunch, I'll stab you. Now look at how a paradigm works. We interpret everything through our paradigm. Let's look at how I interpret his behavior. Imagine he is smiling. What do I think about him? Bloody well right, you're smiling. Steal all my cookies back there, and I can tell. I can see the little wheels. You're plotting to steal my lunch. Or imagine he's frowning. How do I interpret that? Yeah, you should feel guilty. Yeah, some nerve. You should feel guilty for what happened back there. See, it really doesn't matter what he does. I will interpret everything through my paradigm. I will find the proof in his behavior to justify my position, to justify the way I see the situation. Which really brings us to the point that a paradigm is like a set of glasses that I wear, that I am unconscious that I'm even wearing. It's a frightening thing. We're not even aware of what our paradigms are in most of the cases. Highly effective people question the way they see things. Imagine I've never been to Orlando here before. And so on my way down from Toronto, the Winford group, some of the guys, Jean-Pierre or Roland, some of the others, they get a map of Orlando. Now, they bought the map from a rather unscrupulous printer who had some old maps of Jacksonville, Florida he wanted to get rid of. But they printed these stickers that say street map of Orlando. And they stick them over these old Jacksonville maps they want to get rid of. And so the Winford group buys this bad map, and they send it to me, and they fax me some instructions in Toronto about how to get here. So I arrive at the airport, and I rent a car. And I get in the car, and I am trying to find my way around. You know, I can't find a single thing that's on this map. Not one thing. I am totally frustrated, and I'm very worried because I'm not going to make it here to the presentation on time. So I call up the hotel, and they have someone paged. You know, someone comes along, perhaps Phil, you know, and I say, Phil, I am really worried. I'm not going to make it here. Now, Phil is of the mindset that diligence makes the difference. You know, it's hard work that got him where he is today, and he's justifiably proud. So he says to me, Jim, try harder. You know, change your behavior. I want you to apply yourself more. And so I decide to take his advice. I get back in the rental car, and I decide to double my speed. So I am now driving twice as fast all around the freeways around Orlando Airport, and what is the net effect? I'm lost twice as quickly. So the second time I call the hotel up, I have, shall we say, an attitudinal problem. Like I'm pissed off. And Phil detects this automatically. And he says, Jim, you have a bad attitude. And that is what is preventing you from getting here. And he says, tell me where you are. And I describe it. And he says, I happen to know that there's a little bookstore near there. I want you to go over and get some positive mental attitude literature. Maybe some audio cassettes, you know, since you're in the car rental there. And I want you to change your attitude, and when you do, you will get here. And so I do. I go get some of these audio tapes, flip them in the cassette deck. I get psyched to the max. And I get back in my car. I'm now driving twice as fast all over the freeways, lost twice as quickly, only now I don't care. You know, I may never make it here, but I'm happy. Exuding this positive confidence. Now, I'm not speaking against hard work, and I'm not speaking against a positive mental attitude. But if the roadmap we have is incorrect or impartial, harder work and a positive attitude won't make a significant difference. The fundamental difference comes in questioning the roadmap. And a paradigm really is a roadmap. You see, a roadmap is not the territory. It's a representation of the territory. And if I can develop a more effective paradigm, that will make me more effective. And today we're going to be talking about paradigms of effectiveness. I'd like to give you another example of how paradigms are significant. Think about Christopher Columbus's time. You know, everyone belonged to the Flat Earth Society, and that held that if you sailed a certain distance, you'd fall off the edge. And everybody who held that view, their behavior was entirely logical given that paradigm. Entirely logical. But Columbus held a different view. He said the world was round, and that by sailing east, you could get west. And his behavior was entirely logical, given his paradigm. You want to change someone's behavior significantly? Change their paradigm.